So the first week of the 2019-20 NHL season is in the books. It was definitely an exciting week. We had a lot of surprises, a lot of players kind of come out of nowhere and have really hot starts to the season, and I watched a lot of hockey over the past week, and I definitely found myself always wanting to talk about it in a video, and as opposed to doing nightly recaps, because I feel like you guys will definitely get sick of those pretty fast, I'm just going to be doing weekly recaps, and this is the first episode where we're going to be recapping and reviewing week 1 of the 2019-20 NHL season. We're going to go over the standings, the stat leaders, all that type of stuff. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into this video. So taking a look at the goal leaders after week 1, we have James Neal leading the way with 6 goals, and I think everybody knew James Neal was probably going to thrive in this situation, playing with either Draisaitl and McDavid on most occasions, and those are some very talented centermen, and kind of put last year behind him, but I don't think everybody kind of predicted that he was going to be this good. And obviously, yes, it's a small sample size, and he's definitely most likely going to cool down, but I think James Neal is well on his way to like a 20 to 25 goal season at least, if he stays healthy, and if he stays on the ice. He had a 4-goal game last night, and it's definitely a nice thing to see because it was a really rough year for him last season with the Calgary Flames. He got a lot of criticism for being lazy and just not being like coachable on that Calgary team, and just not, wanting to sacrifice and play in like a bottom 6 role and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of criticism on James Neal last season, and it really is nice to see him thriving in his new role with the Edmonton Oilers. And then we have Anthony Mantha and Austin Matthews both tied for second with 5 goals apiece. I'm pretty happy with the way Anthony Mantha has started the season. Obviously would have liked him to score last night against the Ducks in that 3-1 loss, but obviously he's not going to score every single night, but it's definitely nice to see him get off to a hot start. Austin Matthews with 5 goals. I believe he doesn't have any assists just yet, but that's because every time he gets the puck, he's scoring, and that's definitely something that's nice to see, and obviously it is expected. He's one of the most lethal 5-on-5 goal scorers in the entire NHL, and his power play one-timer is looking pretty deadly this season as well. And then we have Rope Hintz with 4 goals. He's definitely been providing a much-needed offensive spark for this Dallas team that are now, I believe, 1-3. They won their first game last night, and Rope Hintz has been one of the more consistent offensive players early in the season. They definitely need some other guys to step up, though, if they want to dig themselves out of that hole. Mike Hoffman with 4 goals. He's been fantastic. He's been getting a lot of assists as well. And then Mika Zibanejad with 4 goals. He's obviously off to an amazing start to the season in only 2 games played. So some of these guys up here you would expect, like Austin Matthews, and, well, I guess maybe that's it. Like, you wouldn't really expect any of these other guys to be up here. But again, it still is early in the season. This is probably going to change, and by the time you're watching this, it could change. I'm recording this early Wednesday, so there is games on tonight, but I don't believe there is anyone that could like shoot up into this list if they have like a 2-goal game or something like that tonight, but we're gonna have to wait and see. But now let's move on to the total point leaders after week 1. So now getting into the point leaders, a lot of guys that are up here, you saw them on the previous list of goal scorers because they're off to really hot starts. Mika Zibanejad and Connor McDavid both with 8 points apiece, but Zibanejad's probably a little bit more impressive because it has only came in 2 games. He had back-to-back 4-point games. He is really developing into an absolute stud for that New York Rangers team. Again, it is early into the season, but it's hard not to overreact from just a glimpse of what we saw from some of these guys. Yeah, again, Connor McDavid, you expect him to be up there. Anthony Mantha with his 5 goals and 2 assists is up there with 7 points. He's tied with Leon Draisaitl. I'm really ecstatic with the start Mantha has gotten off to, and Larkin and Bertuzzi have been very good as well. But Mantha has just been an absolute monster to start the season, and obviously me as a Red Wings fan, I really want him to keep that up and be consistent throughout the whole year. And then you have Leon Draisaitl with 7 points. He's a guy that a lot of people definitely would expect to be up there among the points leaders in the league. And then you have James Neal with 6 points. Obviously, we were talking about him in the goals leaders. He's off to a fantastic start. Mike Hoffman as well with 6 points. Goudreau and Stone both have 6 points. Patty Laine as well. For some reason, I forgot to put the 6 points beside his name, so I apologize for that. But he has 6 points, 1 goal and 5 assists for Laine. It's really nice to see him get off to a good start and put up a good amount of points over the first couple of games, because last year he got a lot of the wrong attention, not the type of attention that you want, especially for a player of the caliber that Patrick Laine is. So I'm really happy for him, and it's nice to see him put up some numbers in the early games of the year. Mark Scheifele as well with 6 points. Matt Duchene as well. That signing has been looking fantastic for the Nashville Predators. And then we have Andrei Svechnikov with 6 points as well. So these are all the players in the NHL with 6 points or above. Andrei Svechnikov has gotten off to a really good start and is a big reason why that Carolina Carolina team is off to their 4-0 start and are currently the first place team in the entire NHL. Sebastian Aho off to a slow start. I believe he only has 1 goal and no assists in 4 games, but when you have other guys like Andrei Svechnikov and Erik Haula and Dzingel playing well and picking up the slack, that just makes that Carolina team that much better. And now getting into the standings for each division, starting with the Atlantic, you have the Boston Bruins leading the way with a 3-0 record, 6 total points. They've been playing very, very well. Their defense has looked great, and they came back from a 2-0 deficit last night to defeat the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas, and that is definitely not an easy building to go into and get a win. So Boston has looked fantastic to start the year. The Buffalo Sabres off to another hot start, just like last season, a 2-0-1 record with 5 points. Victor Olofsson has been continuing his surprising training camp in preseason and carrying that over with some points and goals in the regular season. So that is definitely nice to see, and hopefully this year Buffalo can find some consistency and actually be competing for a playoff spot down the stretch, as opposed to really cooling off and going back to the basement of the league after a hot start. And then you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 2-1-1 record. They lost the last 2. At least one was in overtime though, so they can get a point out of that. That was the collapse against the Montreal Canadiens. But all in all, they have looked good, and I don't really think there's anything to worry about in Toronto. And then you have my Red Wings with a 2-1 record that I'm pretty excited about. A lot of our young players are doing really well and developing nicely, and you never know, maybe Detroit is a team that can surprise some people, but I hope we're not a team that like kind of just misses out on the playoffs and gets kind of a crappy draft pick, because I feel like that would definitely, put a bit of a stall in the rebuild. And then you have Montreal 1-0-1, their win coming against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was definitely a big win for them. Tampa Bay 1-1-1 with 3 points. They're definitely off to a slow start, and Steven Stamkos came out and said that they're just waiting and expecting their skill to take over, but they actually have to work for it, and it could definitely be a long year for them if they continue to play like that. I think them getting Braden Point though back later in the month is definitely going to be a big help. Florida 1-2, they're off to a pretty bad start. They did have 2 games against Tampa Bay, a win and a loss, so getting a win against Tampa Bay is definitely a big confidence boost, but they would then follow that up getting destroyed by the Carolina Hurricanes, so not the ideal start for Florida, but definitely wouldn't panic over it yet. I think Bobrovsky will bounce back and do well, and once the guys like Barakov really get going, I definitely think Florida will start to climb the standings, especially in this Atlantic division. And then finishing it out, you have Ottawa in last place. Only played 2 games, but they did lose both in regulation, and it's kind of what everybody expected. This year is basically just another step in the right direction in terms of the rebuild, developing young guys, and working towards the future. Next up, we have the Metro leading the way, the Carolina Hurricanes with a 4-0 record, obviously off to a very, very good start with some impressive wins. They're currently leading the Metro with 8 points, and Carolina definitely could be in for a really big year if they keep this up. I just love the look of that team. Their new additions of Ryan Dzingel and Erik Haula are paying dividends. They're playing fantastic early on in the season, especially Erik Haula, and obviously Andrei Svechnikov taking another step in his development has been, playing dividends for them as well. And then you have the Washington Capitals with a 2-0-2 record for 6 points. They did have, I believe, an overtime loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. And then you have the New York Rangers 2-0. I kind of want to see them play again because they're definitely an exciting team to watch, and that top line of Panarin, Zibanejad, and Buchnevich is really turning in to a fantastic top line. Again, it is only 2 games into the season for them, but the early signs are definitely pointing in the right direction. The Philadelphia Flyers only have played 1 game. It was the Global Series game against the Hawks. I believe they get back in action tomorrow, so it's going to be exciting to see them play again. They're 1-0 with 2 points, and then you have the Penguins at 1-2, along with the New York Islanders. Not ideal starts for them, and then obviously the Blue Jackets are 1-2 as well, and the New Jersey Devils in last place with a 0-1-1 record. Definitely not the start Devils fans would have liked, especially after all the new additions that they brought in this summer, but sometimes it does take a little bit longer to gel and mesh. But they looked fantastic in that first period against the Winnipeg Jets. They were up like 4-0, and then they would eventually collapse and lose that game to the Jets in the shootout, and then they would follow that up by a blowout loss. So hopefully New Jersey can bounce back, but if they don't, it could definitely be a pretty long year for them. Moving out west now to the Central Division, we have the defending Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues leading the way with 5 points, a 2-0-1 record. They've looked very solid to start the year. And then the Colorado Avalanche only played 2 games, but they won them both and have definitely looked good. Nashville with a 2-1 record, the Jets 2-2, definitely shaky at times, but their offense is definitely clicking, and if they can tighten the defense up, I definitely see no reason as to why they shouldn't be a playoff team. The Dallas Stars with a 1-3 record, they just got their first win last night, thanks to Rupee Hintz, man. Without him scoring the goals he has been scoring, it definitely could have been an abysmal start to the year for Dallas, and hopefully they can dig themselves out of that hole. The Blackhawks only played 1 game, again, it was the Global Series game, and I think they get, their action back in North America underway tomorrow night, so it'll be interesting to see them play again. They're 0-1, and then the Minnesota Wild last place in the division with an 0-2 record. Again, kind of everybody expected them to probably finish last in a tough Central division. And now finishing out the video with the most surprising division by far to start the season, and that is the Pacific, with Anaheim and Edmonton tied for first place, both 3-0 records, 6 points apiece, and definitely hot starts to the year for them. Edmonton has definitely played very well. They're getting some secondary scoring as opposed to just Draisaitl and McDavid doing everything, and the Anaheim Ducks have been carried by John Gibson, and he's probably the early season Vezina favorite. Then you have the Vegas Golden Knights with a 2-1 record. They started off 2-0, both wins against the Sharks, and then lost last night to the Bruins. The Calgary Flames, a 1-1-1 record with 3 points. The LA Kings with a 1-1 record. That game last night was so entertaining between the Kings and Flames, that whole Makachuk versus Drew Doughty saga. And then you have Arizona with an 0-2 record, the Canucks with an 0-2 record as well, and then you have the San Jose Sharks with an 0-4 record. They just brought in Patty Marleau. I feel like they're getting a little bit desperate now, but I definitely think he can bring some veteran experience to that team, and I thought they should have signed him anyways. I don't know why it took a slow start for them to bring him in, but even some of the wingers that they have, like, are guys I don't even recognize, and I think Patty Marleau is definitely going to be a nice addition, and hopefully he can help bring them out of that hole, because it could definitely be an awful year for San Jose if things don't pick up. So that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section how you feel about this, me doing this every week, if you want me to do it, if you just want me to stop and go back to the usual videos. I'm obviously going to still do them, but just throw in this video every Wednesday because I want to talk about what I've seen in the NHL every week. I definitely think it should be a fun series, so make sure to let me know your feedback on that. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.